Okay, don't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the factory floor. Today, I am joined by, guess who? The same two nerds I'm always joined by, Zach and Corey. Today, we're going to be talking about, once again, AI and how it's infiltrated all of our minds and brains and lives, of course, but specifically this time in the context of SaaS pricing. So obviously, we work with a lot of SaaS companies. We talk to a lot of people in SaaS. And so how do you price your product? How should pricing exist in the world of AI? So that is what we are going to be talking about today. Does that sound good to you guys?
No, I think we should change the topic.
Let's change it. Let's do something else.
Curveball.
Okay, let's do it. So, Corey, why don't you just get us going? Kind of give us a broad overview, maybe of, you're the marketing guru at the very top. So, what do you see is the biggest place where AI is actually changing the way SaaS pricing works?
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's how I think about it: is that first of all, I think a lot of people have been it's like we're all not interested. We're kind of we're all a little bit burnt out about how AI is changing everything, but we have to know, because otherwise you're going to get majorly left behind or screwed over. Or you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. So this is one of the things I've been thinking about, where it's I don't know what the strategy is here per se, but this is something that everyone has to be hyper aware of, and that everyone's for sure thinking about right now, because we're basically forced to make some of these changes that I'm going to talk about. And it's not going to be the whole SaaS pricing now is all based on results, and how it's all just about success-based pricing. I don't actually think that that's necessarily the point. I think that's one of the points. We'll talk about kind of the nuances of it. But here's the deal. We had Software 1.0, which was based off of on-premise installations on your computer. And how they tracked that was per license, right? So you built software, you licensed a version, people pay for that, they install it on the computer, they can use it for as long as they want on their computer, right? And then we had this thing called
old Adobe users, right?
Yeah, exactly. Adobe, Word, Excel, even Salesforce, NetSuite. Was it NetSuite or
QuickBooks?
Netscape? I think QuickBooks, right, was the original on-prem kind of software. So all of those, where the pricing was built around fundamentally how people used programs on their computer, which was that everything was installed locally. So when you want a new version of software, you pay for the next version. There's Word 1, Word 2, Word 3, Word 4, so on and so forth. And that was actually a pretty good pricing model, because they basically built software around having these annual upgrades that they want you to do, essentially, and pack it full of new features and upgrades, things like that. Then we had this thing come around called the cloud, right? And this is basically web-based apps, software as a service, where now there's no longer versions, because people are shipping updates daily, sometimes even hourly. And so how do you charge for a license? And how do you charge for something that people are constantly using on their browser, possibly even on different devices, different computers? Well, now I have the idea of subscriptions, right? So you essentially pay for access. It's like leasing software. Now, so that's Software 2.0. Now I think we're kind of already entered into an era, but we're all figuring it out real time, where it's really this Software 3.0, where we've even gone beyond the cloud and access-based software. It's a lot more outcome-based, results-based, and it's based off of computing power, because now we're all renting software from Amazon, from NVIDIA, because everything is powered by AI, which is really, really computationally heavy. And so again, the pricing has to shift again, because we're not just paying for access of software. Now we're paying for how much that software is doing for us, because AI is expensive. So does that kind of paint the picture a little bit about
Oh yeah.
Yes,
30,000
I
foot
think,
view,
but
last 30 years, basically.
it's less like we're not necessarily saying like, okay, this is how it all works now. It's more like, hey, this is the change that's taking place, and we're still getting our footing, or the world of SaaS is still getting its footing on how pricing should work in this new world. Like, is it credits? Is it, whatever? There's multiple different kind of avenues, and we're still kind of getting our footing with this new SaaS pricing 3 or software pricing 3.
Yes. And the main difference is that in the 2.0 world, the software that you paid for was running all of its own compute, right? So whatever you do on there is powered by the servers that they pay for. In software 3.0 world, now you're not just paying for access to that software and that compute, but also the compute that it's paying for and using from other platforms, all the AI providers, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, well, Google, right? So on and so forth, right? There's like 5, Grok is one of them too. So they have costs that they're paying for, the passing on to you. And so now we have this kind of mixture of 2 different layers of computing that you're paying for, not just one.
Okay. I think that's making sense. Okay. So then with the new development, the new version 3, we'll call it version 3. What is like the stuff from version 2 that doesn't fit at all to version 3? Like this doesn't work at all in V3.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things I've been noticing is freemium, actually, which is crazy because freemium was such a huge innovation for software 2.0, where people figured out that the computing costs for a free user was so low that they were like, let's just give it for free. And then we'll have some kind of cap, some kind of paywall at some point that'll get people to upgrade. And that'll be a huge advantage for us, both from a product and a marketing perspective, because it really takes the try before you buy mantra to like the ultimate extreme. The problem now with freemium is that the computing cost is no longer low, potentially, right? The computing cost is high because the computing cost is low for your own computing power, but not for the AI computing power that whatever software you're paying for is buying from the AI providers. So it could potentially be extremely expensive, actually, right? Imagine you have Canva, where it's like, hey, free access to our little, graphic design software. But then anytime you use an AI generation for graphics, it could cost them dollars per generation.
Right. Now, can you draw a distinction here between freemium and free trials? So I think that'd be I don't see free trials dying, but freemium is going away.
No, actually, they're not so dissimilar, because if you think about it, someone could come into a free trial and also really abuse AI features or AI usage that could rack up a bill of, tens or even hundreds of dollars if it's uncapped. And that's kind of the whole point of why freemium needs to be adjusted and is no longer the same as it will ever be, is because anything that is uncapped when you're using AI is going to be expensive until potentially the AI becomes a lot lower cost. The computing power is super low now. And we're kind of seeing that where a lot of the AI providers will make their older models and their like mini models, quote unquote, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But it's also they're not really incentivized to like keep a lot of those around because they're a lot cheaper. They want you to use the newer, bigger, beefier models that cost more, right?
Well, and I'm sure it just doesn't make sense for them to tie in your software product with an antiquated model, either like an antiquated AI model. Why would you do that? Have them bifurcated that way? It would just be far more complicated. It's more to explain in your comparisons of, what does a free trial constitute or freemium constitute? It's like, well, you get the old models. It's like, and people have an even harder time delineating between that, more confusion.
Right.
Yeah. And then they're not really getting the value possibly that's going to trigger them wanting to make an upgrade. Because now they're like, oh, did I really experience the full power of this platform? Was it really a free trial? or was it a limited, handicapped, nerfed trial? Right. Now, there's one other caveat to this that this could also no longer be true if and once software companies start to figure out how to build and run their own models, because then again, the computing power, once they bring that in-house, they can offer an open source model for much cheaper than the AI providers because they have all the control and all the compute, which is going to be, basically the difference of like manufacturer costs versus retail costs. Think about it that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
like the consumer is paying the retail cost of AI, the SaaS company is paying the wholesale costs, but if they can get down to the manufacturer costs, then it's going to be a lot cheaper.
That's crazy. The whole like framework is kind of like wild how you could think of it just like any other product is being developed.
Do you think that is there an opportunity here for feature gating where like, so say somebody has AI as part of like maybe their middle Goldilocks offer and then their premium offer, or maybe like enterprise, but then the starting one doesn't have any of it. And you can start them on a free trial where they get access to all the AI tools and get to try them out for 2 weeks. And then they are pushed back to that base model, or base plan that could be free, could be a freemium one, but doesn't have any of the stuff that they were just playing with and that actually showed them the value. It sounds like that might still be a thing, but
Yeah.
maybe.
I think so.
Okay.
There's definitely, we're seeing with this with Notion, for example, where you basically, every SaaS company now has to adopt 2 simultaneous pricing models. One is the access for the software. 2 is the usage of AI features. Whether they're providing those in-house, more at the manufacturer level, where they're running their own models and their own compute, or if they're buying and outsourcing all that compute to an OpenAI or an Anthropic, there will always now be some kind of usage-based pricing tacked on top, especially for AI. And again, this goes back to, well, how do people use the software and where do the costs come from? Usage-based pricing is essentially going to always be around now, or at least be a factor of any pricing model, because that's part of the cost. Because when they're buying it from OpenAI or Anthropic, they're paying for a certain number of tokens, right? And so in the past, you had a provider like AWS or Heroku, for example, where there's like these managed compute solutions. You don't have to buy your own servers. You can just essentially lease from the cloud, and they're going to give you some kind of computing power for really cheap that gets you the bandwidth you need at a very like stable kind of rate. So every month you pay $10, you get 2 servers, and that can handle X amount of users. And so the costs were fixed. Now the costs are always variable for AI, where it's every single token you pay for, every single usage, every single API ping, essentially. So we kind of see like now there's going to be SaaS pricing and there's going to be AI pricing, and they're going to be bundled together.
Do you think that matters? Like having so for example, I just signed up for Weavy, which is one of the node-based design editors that Figma just acquired. And their pricing, if I'm not mistaken, you do have a free trial where you get access to a certain number of credits. And then you get access to, I think that I'm pretty sure it's their most popular version, where it has just the right amount of features and, models, access to all the things that you would want in using that tool. And it came with a set number of credits. Now, if I wanted to pay for that software, I'm pretty sure they have a baseline tier, which is their lowest cost, plus, X amount of AI credits inside of there. And then there's like a credit cap on the lower tier. And then in the middle tier, you have another amount of credits, but you can go a little bit higher and pick how many you need, and that adjusts your costs as well. Or, you have the enterprise plan, which is, gangbusters. You get everything that you want because you're paying us so much money. So do you think that are you seeing anything with like the way that those it's almost like usage gating or usage tiering in addition to the credits? Or do you think that there's some utility of just having your baseline software costs and then on top of all of them, you have that other layer of, oh, and by the way, if you want AI, you can just add as much as you want, regardless of what tier you're on. You're not gated based on how much you're paying for your base software package.
Right. Yeah, I think they're probably going to be mostly unrelated, where you can pay for any tier that gets you access to a number of users, features, capabilities within your own platform. But then any of the AI enabled features or usage is going to be sort of a separate system. I think a lot of people right now are going with credits and some sort of credit package. And that's, again, also just how OpenAI and Anthropic have been charging. Is they're like, hey, you sort of like top off, you can spend $100 per month and that gets you these credits that don't expire. Anything over that, we charge you at some sort of usage. If you want to buy bigger packs in advance, you get some volume discounting, right? And then the idea of a credit is flexible enough to where you can make one credit equal 5 API calls, or you can make 100 credits equal 2 API calls. It's sort of like up to you and how you're using the AI to figure out how to like pass that along to your customers. Versus just copying and pasting what you're being charged.
Totally. Well, because there were some things like, so generating an image with GPT image was way less credits than generating something with VO3, which is the Google video creator, right? So that's how they're having you buy those base amounts of credits so that they're hedging, your costs. Like if you're going to be doing a lot of videos, you're going to need a lot more credits. But if you're just doing GPT image gen, then you don't need as many probably.
It's like this very strange, like it reminds me of what is it? And like you can buy credits in Fortnite. What's that called? V-Bucks?
V-Bucks.
You know what I'm talking about? That to me, that's the itch that's being scratched. Is like you could buy 1,000 V-Bucks and it's $22, and you're like, how many dollars is a V-Buck? And the same thing happens with these credit. Like how many dollars is a credit? And okay, so then there are API calls. How many API calls fit into a credit? So how many dollars is an API call? And then like how many API calls does each user use? It's like this whole like labyrinth and weird like exchange rate to deal with, and it's honestly kind of annoying.
Yeah. Well, you want to go even deeper down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I do.
It's because how LLMs work is they essentially tokenize a word, and they have this whole crazy system that, converts everything down into binary to where you can essentially turn a word into a series of numbers. And that's kind of what the tokenization process is. And so when you're buying tokens from OpenAI, 1,000 tokens could be 500 words, or it could be 200 words, or it could be 800 words, depending on the word and the word length and the sentence, right? The combination of sentences.
It's unbelievable.
So the bigger your words and the more eloquent you are, the more you're going to pay ChatGPT.
Yeah, pretty much.
What you gotta do.
Much.
You got to ask dumber questions to the AI robots. Be like, make rich, please, and it will dumb it down and cost less tokens.
Well, that kind of is part of the magic of prompt engineering, and what a lot of people have realized with coding, especially, is you have a context window, and a context window is essentially the short-term memory of the AI in how much you can give it and then how much it can spit out. It's sort of like if you told me, hey, repeat after me, and then you told me, like, I can only say so many things before like I starts to get fuzzy and I start hallucinating maybe like what I'm supposed to repeat back.
Yeah.
And so people have realized, instead of saying, make me an image that is photorealistic and X, Y, and Z, people just say image : hyper photorealistic detail. Like they just kind of mash everything into this like keyword blob because it uses less tokens.
That's hilarious. Awesome. So Kevin Malone fares better with ChatGPT than Robert California.
Why use lot word when fewer do trick? That's exactly the AI mantra.
That's what they've been teaching us this whole time. Okay, so I have like a larger question based on this token and usage pricing and all that stuff. is the AI feature revamp of software making SaaS companies a lot less money or a lot more money? Like, is profitability going down because they're like, sure, they added this cool AI feature and maybe they got some new customers and maybe they could charge a little bit more, but the cost is just like the scales are tipping in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we look at companies like Cursor, for example. Why has Cursor raised billions of dollars? It's because they subsidized the cost of the AI compute that they were paying for, that they were passing along those savings to their customers. Because I remember even like a year ago in Cursor, I was just vibe coding like crazy because I was like, okay, they're going to charge me $20 per month. And based on how much I'm using all the AI, if I were to pay OpenAI directly for this, it would be like hundreds of dollars. OpenAI is still getting paid. Cursor was just subsidizing it for me. They were eating the cost. So they can't do that forever, right? And it's sort of like back in the day when a Lyft was $5 or an Uber was, $3 to go down the block. And now it's like $20 to just go down the street because VC money was subsidizing it. Well, like you can't change the unit economics, right? At the end of the day, OpenAI is going to get paid. At the end of the day, actually, Amazon and NVIDIA and Oracle and whoever their like real computing partners are, like they're going to get paid. And so right now, AI is making startups a lot less profitable until they start adapting to this needed change in their pricing model and sort of having this, manufacturer level, wholesale level, retail level pricing of AI and how they use that or pass that along to their customers. In the long run, it totally can make SaaS companies a lot more money, because instead of being maybe capped at $100 per month, possibly, now it can be $100 per month plus $200 in AI usage, right? And then maybe of that $200 in AI usage, they have a 50% profit margin, for example. So they just doubled their kind of like take home, profitability per customer by introducing this AI usage model on top of it. And it could be, completely optional per customer, but it definitely has an opportunity for every single startups to increase their average revenue per user and even their profit per user.
Dang.
Sick, dude.
It makes sense that it's costing them a lot of money now, but with all the things, it's going to eventually become more cost effective, and it's just a matter of time. Like, can you hold out? And I think that by making those shifts and having the flexibility within your pricing, that you'll be able to weather the storm a lot better. I'm curious. So, what do you think? You've mentioned outcome based pricing before, but
Yeah.
I am curious. I'm curious how that's going to go, especially when you have a lot of, the marketing around software almost always comes down to increasing ARR or increasing MRR. So what happens when that train of thought goes all the way down? Shout out to our friends at Fletch, Anthony Peary and Robert Kaminsky, for highlighting that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's definitely a big risk. It's one of the other reasons why I don't think that SaaS pricing is going to move completely to outcome-based pricing or results-based or success-based, however you want to call it. That whole idea just being, instead of charging $100 per month, I charge $1 per valuable thing that I deliver to my customers, right? And then maybe on average they do 100 of those per month, but now it's a lot more flexible. I still don't think that's going to be the case. They're having companies like Intercom's Fin Agent, for example, that have like really moved to that model completely. It's like a really big bet. And I think that can work when it can be a cost savings to your customers. Intercom was super expensive. Like, let's be honest. It was like dreadfully
Ridiculous.
One of the most expensive customer support / chat tools out there. And so people were like, oh, I only pay for, completed successful support tickets. Cool. That can save me money. But when it starts costing people more money, they're going to be like, oh, maybe we should go back to SaaS because it was kind of nice being able to predict all of our costs. I don't think that there's a world where anyone is ever completely comfortable with 100% based usage-based pricing. And that's really what outcome-based, success-based, results-based pricing is. I think that the future and really what people are going to adapt the most is going to be this combination of SaaS plus usage. And maybe your base SaaS kind of gets you a certain number of credits or a certain number of usage. And then anything above that, you pay either in credits or tiers or just like a pure kind of flat rate for whatever usage you, usage metric you want to measure. But I don't think that it's going to go 100% to outcome-based pricing. So I think MRR is still safe. It's just going to be like MRR plus. And I don't know how we're going to start measuring that, but
Yeah, I don't, because it's not recurring. That's like the biggest thing is like we all love this like X amount per month. I make 10K a month, blah, 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 blah. You know, like that's the words that we like is the per month. And so this is like, it kind of goes away. The first person I ever like heard this idea of like outcome based, right, was the online gurus who are like, you pay when when you get a result, or the cold emails that like, you don't pay for anything until you get a booked appointment. You know, it's just like all this soup of not SaaS, but service outcome based pricing. Is that like who popularized this? And I'm not talking like usage necessarily. I mean like actual like outcome based. Why is it like that the new fad? Does that make sense? Like it seems like a new way of doing things, and it's more trendy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you like the exact origin. It's sort of like, where did coronavirus come from?
I want the moment.
We don't know the exact moment. Right. Yeah. I guess it did take a while, but we did figure that out. No, I think that's, again, probably just that's like a tactic and something that's like, oh, this is the way that everything's going. And people were getting tired of just paying for retainers that didn't go anywhere. And so they're like, oh, if I can guarantee you this, which I think there's a lot of merit in that. But at the same time, that was probably something that was just like popularized by some guru, like you mentioned. A similar thing I think has happened in SaaS too, where some people were like, hey, outcome-based pricing is the new big thing. Look at this. And I'm not going to name names, but I've seen some people on LinkedIn be like talking about it as if it's already set in stone. But their examples they give are like, there's like a few to several, and they're all super well-established companies that made a really big bet, and we still don't know how it's going to play out. But like 95% of all startups still today are still on the traditional SaaS model. So I think it's kind of silly to be like, this is the future, this is inevitable, this is 100% what everyone's going to start doing, because we haven't actually even seen that play out.
Okay.
Go ahead, Zach. No, you go. No, you. No,
okay.
You.
Fine. Well, how does this play into things like the way that you market your SaaS, the way that you sell your SaaS? If you we hear a lot of talk about things like PLG versus SLG, and it seems like this has some trickle down effect to those areas. What are you seeing as far as, is that line continually being blurred? Are they merging together? Is there, maybe it's not even like PLG versus SLG anymore? What's the trajectory there?
Yeah, I think that the AI usage is also further popularizing the PLG model, because people want to get in there and try it for themselves, especially for this kind of AI usage and AI-based pricing that everyone's going to have to tack on to their existing models, where you can't just sell AI over a phone call. You have to get people to use it. But at the same time, based on the amount that they're using it and how they're using it, the requirements for using it, we get to things like HIPAA and SLAs and data, and is the AI training on my data or not, and how is it containerized and all this kind of stuff that still also warrants a sales conversation and sales process essentially. And that's why I think there's kind of not going to be PLG or SLG anymore. Everyone's going to have to adopt both because everyone really needs to get people in the door to try and use their AI in order to probably even just get them interested in the first place. And then they're also going to inevitably need to have a conversation around all their requirements for the bigger companies. So I really I've always been a big believer in PLG. I've never thought that it was going to, the whole world was going to be completely PLG. And I think AI is going to make this really, really clear, where now the future is, everything is going to be both. Why would you ever kind of handicap yourself or put a ceiling or a floor on who you can attract and what prices you can get, what the types of customers you can get, when people are going to expect that both of those options are going to be available? 10 years ago, maybe, we saw a lot of companies take the strategy of no, we don't want to have an enterprise sales process. We don't want to have big customers. We don't want to charge people a ton of money. With AI, though, I just don't see a world where that's ever the case. People are going to be reaching their ceiling all the time. You're going to have those conversations at some point.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense because I think of a company like Superhuman, where they onboard every single customer, regardless of their size. And that with all of these tools now becoming, I feel like the tools are becoming less expensive, especially, and the manpower behind them is becoming less expensive, even if the profits aren't there or showing it from the actual financial side of things within the SaaS company itself. But as far as getting people to use your product and making it more widespread, everybody wants everything. It's what are you going to compete on? Your customer acquisition cost is not going down, guaranteed. Ads are going to cost more. Sending emails is going to cost more. You're going to have to do a lot more to send out in the crowd and get people to at least get your foot in the door. And once you do get your foot in the door, why would you stop yourself from giving them the opportunity to hop on a call and get onboarded and, just get into a sales-led motion with that? Even if you only have to do that and then it's off to the races for them, they no longer have to speak with the salesperson or even sign a contract. They just need more information up front before making the buying decision. So yeah, do you think that this would apply to companies who are purely enterprise level? I'm thinking a San Diego-based unicorn like Kyriba. What does someone who only has enterprise deals with annual contracts only, how does it work for them? Or is that a totally different conversation?
No, I think it totally is. And that was going to be something I was going to bring up, was I think the biggest change is going to be in kind of ushering in a lot more sales-led companies to become more product-led. Because again, you can't just sell AI over the phone. People need to see it, experience it, use it. So maybe it's not going to be completely product-led per se, where you're just anonymously seeing usage and you're like, oh, that's cool. This big company signed up to start using me for my product. But maybe it's more a concierge pilot, for example, or maybe you can sign up, have a playground, you have a limited number of kind of AI usage, and it can simulate the type of thing that you're looking to do. And then maybe that prompts them to book a call, to start a sales cycle, to explore more, personalized experiences using their own data. It's not a question of, a company like Kyriba or any really enterprisey software. They have to let people use their product before signing the contract. 5 years ago, that was not true. That was not the case. Today, it is. They have to use the software. They have to be able to play with it, get their hands on it, see it, and prove that it's going to work for them. And so maybe it's not product-led per se, but it's not just going to be, let's hop on a sales call for 5 weeks, 5 different calls, sign a contract, and then use the product anymore.
Right. They got to be able to play with it. I think so. I thought of Less Annoying CRM, who I think has a really nice solution to this. They have a fully interactive demo where and you can access it straight from their website. It's like click in, you can play. I don't know if it has any of the AI features that they have put out, but we use that all the time, the design team, because we were looking at actually using their features to see how they worked and jump in there and play with it. And it was really interesting because then, my mom is a sales rep for pet food suppliers. It's like, Mom, you should check this out. It's really cool. And you could play with it for free. And then if you want to ever actually use it, just let them know that Zach sent you, because I'm a good contractor and send clients business when I can. But I think that's having some kind of dummy playground. I don't see why anybody wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
Why not? It doesn't make any sense to keep what are you trying to hide? The way the sausage is made, or there's nothing that they're eventually going to uncover it. You might as well just let them play with it and then see if they really want it.
Yeah, I think that's the new paradigm. And again, as it becomes more and more competitive, because people are building faster, offering more for less, the waters are pretty frothy right now, so to speak. And so, can you really afford to only be PLG, or can you really afford to only be sales led? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that that's probably going to be a big mistake, and everyone's kind of already realizing it'd be nice to have best of both worlds. I would like to have the lower end of the market and the top end of the market, and there's no reason why I can't do both. And in fact, a lot of times that can really help with your acquisition strategy, because you get a larger mix of customers. You're not limiting yourself to, oh, my customer acquisition costs are $300, but I'm only, our top end of our available plans for people to sign up for are $50 per month, for example. And now we're like, okay, the math ain't mathing super well. You mix in a couple of $1,000 per month customers, and now you can kind of recoup your costs a lot quicker.
Okay, I have something that's a little bit adjacent to all this, which is not necessarily tied to AI. We've talked mostly about tactics and strategies and things that we're seeing from a broader perspective, but I kind of want to give people something to chew on for them to think about if they are a founder or thinking about how they're pricing their SaaS, because there's a whole nother side to pricing, which is the psychology of pricing and the the position and the product, the fit within your competitors for pricing. There's all sorts of other things. So can you give me what percentage is the psychology and what percentage is just the math and the tactic? If someone's oh, I could think about all these things and game it so that it's perfect, but they have disregarded the, let's say, 90% that they need for the psychological purchasing decision, how much should someone put into the psychology versus the math?
Man, that's a tough one, because I've struggled with this with software for a long time, because software is inherently utilitarian. People don't buy software for fun; they buy it to solve a very specific problem for them. And as soon as it stops solving that problem, then they're out. They look elsewhere. They cancel. It's game over, right? And so psychology, I think, only takes you so far for SaaS pricing, because at the end of the day, people are looking for, does this add value to me or not? And there is kind of always an ROI equation going on through their head, where they're like, what are the prices? What am I paying for? And what is the value that I'm getting? And so the psychology is oh, can you use decoys? The 99 cents versus the whole dollar, the kind of mix of options. It's well, I don't know. I think most software companies should probably have somewhere between 1 and 3 plans. And then now with AI, there's probably going to be some kind of add-on. Most of them probably should have some kind of free trial or freemium experiences. and then they should all have some kind of custom enterprise-based pricing as well. That's 95% of the strategy.
Can I, because we talked on this briefly before, and it's something that I frequently think about in the shower when I'm lying awake at night. Just like, is there any kind of status that's brought in with software or tools like this? Because it does happen in other areas where there's tools. DeWalt tools are more expensive than Ryobi or Cobalt, right? So it does happen, and I think you can see it with other areas, like even a water bottle, which is more of a tool, but like the simple modern ones do not cost as much as Yeti. And it's like, well, what are you paying for other than the label, right? Me and Nick right here with the examples. How much was it, Nick? Like $10?
I don't know. My wife bought it. I have no idea.
It's less expensive, but that's okay. I'm not splitting hairs. I just know that
I have a DeWalt over on the other side of the room. I'll have you know.
Well, and I have Ryobi, so it's like, why I bought a more expensive water bottle and Nick bought a more expensive power drill than I did. And I was thinking, I think that the only thing that works here as far as like a status symbol is if you solve a really big problem that not many other competitors can solve. Like if you are someone who like deals in like an either very secure or highly not volatile, but like precious or just highly valuable area. Like if you're dealing with companies that only do $10 million a year ARR or higher, and you have a solution that's for them, you could have in that scenario, you could have the Goliath type of customer, which only has enterprise plans. They're all special contract value. Each one is treated like a custom agreement with, scope of work and service level agreement and things like that. And you could have somebody who is trying to enter in that same space and maybe compete on a more like a typical PLG route and show like, no, our solution is way more cost effective. It's way more affordable than these other guys. We can do all the exact same things. And I wonder if they wouldn't get picked simply because they don't have the kind of clout that somebody would be looking for. Like, does that register? Or I mean,
I think so.
It is it's utilitarian, but it's more from a perspective of this other company has a lot more trust and reputability compared to this one, which is a fledgling startup compared to an established player, regardless of what that means. It could be something as simple as look. It could be the way that they price. Like, we only do contracts versus you could sign up for free right now and try it out.
Here's where my mind goes with that. It's a little bit a non-answer. It's kind of a political answer, but the way that my brain goes with the idea of like brand power in the pricing equation is not as much about status as much as it is about taste. Here's what I mean is I think about the way that people think about and compare ChatGPT versus Claude, for example. Claude in their branding and even down to the way that they fine-tune their models and hard code in, if you want to call it that, certain types of behaviors into their AI appeals to a certain type of person with a certain type of outcome that they're looking for in a particular way, let's just say. Versus ChatGPT feels a little bit more like the layman's tool, where it is a lot more mass market. It's a lot more broad, generic. In that sense, it's less opinionated. Even their branding is like, hyper minimalistic, especially for something like ChatGPT, where everything is sort of like on a grayscale. And there really doesn't feel like you're getting anything opinionated from OpenAI. Versus maybe even other models like Gemini or let's just say like Grok, for example, where people know that Grok is a little bit more unhinged and maybe it's willing to do certain types of content or responses that other models wouldn't. Even we have like now there's a lot of models where we're kind of seeing the divergence of models and what they're good at and what they're used for, because they keep having to fine tune for certain use cases, that they do inherently become different. And maybe there's some pricing power in that from the model perspective too, where it's like I can envision a world, and I've kind of already experienced this, where sometimes a SaaS company will tout like, oh, we have AI features, and then I can see that it's OpenAI 4.0 mini or something under the hood, which is like,
Right.
kind of a piece of garbage by now. And then I look at another tool and it's like, no, we only use top of the line models, and or we have our own model that we're fine tuning. I think about like Cursor, for example. They made their own model recently called Composer One, and it's, I believe, a fork of a Chinese model. I think maybe even like Quen, possibly. But they're fine tuning and personalizing with their own opinions and taste. So there's maybe something there around
Interesting.
like Nike versus Adidas, or
Yeah.
Same
Louis
function,
Vuitton
different form.
versus Hermes.
Yeah, but the strange thing about that is, so ChatGPT, I'm looking at the pricing right now, and ChatGPT is free to start. So is Claude. Claude's Pro version is $17 per month annually. Hang on, let me see here real quick.
I think it's 20 per month. I think so is ChatGPT.
It's 20. Yeah, they're
20.
both $20 per month if billed monthly. But well, that's totally different, separate equation as far as showing your annual price versus your monthly price to start. Claude, watching you. But then Claude's max is $100 up. So it's interesting. They are playing a little bit of a game, and I'm sure they're aware of they're making it difficult to decide between their high-end models and the high-end packages, but the baseline ones are exactly the same. But
Bite size. Yeah.
but bite-sized.
Wow. Okay. We're coming up on time. Is there anything else you wanted to say before I finish out with what I wanted to say?
No.
I guess like my parting words are, think about this really thoroughly. Talk to us if you need some help thinking through this. But really, honestly, like this can basically make or break your business if you're a SaaS company over the next couple of years. Because again, if you could unknowingly be eating a lot of the costs, and then you're not profitable and or not up to snuff with your competitors and how they're rolling out AI features or bundling all their pricing and packaging. But number two, it's a huge opportunity as well. And so like, get this right, and it can be a huge growth lever for you. It can make you a lot more profitable. And so it's important to like think about this hard now.
Bro, look at this guy. Put it on a poster. Okay. Thank you. Before we go, we have Nick's dumb idea of the week. Okay. So while we were talking, I had something that hit my head, which it related to the tokens, buying tokens. Okay. So there's the story. Have you guys heard like how Sam Bankman-Fried like got rich at the very beginning? How he
Yeah.
like was buying Bitcoin in like the US and like selling it in China or something, and there was like just a
Japan.
slight difference. Yeah, Japan. And so he made like arbitrage. Okay, so where is the AI token arbitrage? And can we capitalize? Like, where can we like bulk buy a bunch of tokens and then like sell them somewhere else where there is money? That's my dumb idea of the week. Okay, if you guys have an idea, you could chew on it. Let me know.
Not a dumb idea, actually. And it's already, there's businesses being made off of this.
Dang it.
Yeah. Where they basically make themselves a gateway or a router for any model that you want to use. And then instead of paying directly for each one of those models or providers, you pay them, and then they just have a teeny tiny upcharge, right? It's sort of like
I'm a genius.
credit card processing. You just add
Yeah.
like 3% on top.
Gosh.
I knew it. I was like, dude, there's got to be some. You can bulk buy AI tokens. Like, come on, this is Bitcoin
No-brainer.
is here.
Right.
Like, that's exactly what it is to anyone who
arbitrage.
doesn't actually know how to do it. Dang it. Okay, well, Nick's dumb idea of the week turned out to be a good idea. I'm just like probably 2 years late. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to The Factory Floor, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.